Rob, what's good?
Oh, just doing me, man. It's been
Doing you.
an interesting day. Let me close this door.
How interesting has it been?
Oh, it's been a lot of interesting. Talking to an attorney for this cross-selling compatibility service we're doing for M&A. It's
Okay.
pretty innovative stuff, and it's going down a lot of different routes. So we're about to give a webinar presentation in front of, I think, about 150 M&A attorneys on Wednesday.
Okay.
And the guy is he's like a risk mitigation, like insurance and warranty underwriter
Okay.
for mergers and acquisitions. And what we're trying to accomplish is a joint venture so that we can have our data processing be piece and part of the whole of the underwriting process. So it becomes, if you don't use us, you're not doing proper due diligence and it's considered malpractice.
Okay.
Talk about a market lock-in.
Yeah, and how is that relatable to White Rabbit? I'm trying to think here.
Hold on, you're cutting out, buddy.
Yeah, it's raining hard here in Mexico. I was outside right before I was talking to you, so bear with me here. It might get a little bit laggy, but I was wondering how does that relate with White Rabbit? Because I know M&A, I know lawyers. You showed me the platform the other day was very clear as per how White Rabbit kind of shows me who to go after. When it comes to
Right.
ICP. How does what you just told me relate to
Yes,
White Rabbit?
I got you. So the way that it fits is that in the mergers and acquisition process, the greatest point of failure, about 70 to 90% of the time, is business integration fit.
Okay.
And especially in the sales department. So cross-selling compatibility, essentially. So what we're doing is a cross-selling compatibility analysis. So upfront during due diligence, we can give the actual cross-selling compatibility rating between the two companies before an acquisition happens, because usually it happens. It's an assumptive process. If their clients like, oh yeah, our clients are kind of similar. They buy each other. They buy our stuff. That's of course they will, even though they don't actually know. It's just a guess.
Okay.
That fails the majority of the time. So we can give them an actual quantifiable statistic report on that.
Okay.
All the way down to after the acquisition happens, we act as an escrow up front. After the acquisition happens, we can literally give them a whole mapped out report of every client within their ecosystem and what product they're most likely to buy.
That is very interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And let's say that you strike a partnership with these lawyers. What would the dealio be? Would they pay you a subscription, for example? How would it work?
No, we would facilitate our services through them as a joint offering. So it would be a joint offering between the M&A attorney, the underwriter, the insurance attorney, and ourselves, so that it's like a full package. And then the finance person, of course.
Okay, so you give them a cut every referral that they give you.
Right. So they would get a piece of everything, and it would all be shared revenue.
Okay. Wow, that is indeed very niched. Was it done on purpose by you, or did it just came about?
So I spoke to an M&A attorney, and he said, well, can it be used for this, this, and this? And I said, well, yeah. And he went, really? I was like, yeah, I mean, you would just do this. Then I literally typed up the whole process. Like, okay, here's the steps that we would take. This is how it would work. This is the logic behind it and everything. Like in the meeting, like in the chat, I just like wrote out the whole process, and this guy's mind was literally blown.
Yeah, well, mine is too, to be honest. Like that's super duper interesting for M&A, before you buy a business, because that's the logic. Well, I mean, there's a couple of logic to mergers and acquisitions. Obviously, you want to acquire the talent, you want to acquire their customer base, but yeah, you also want to know if you can sell to these guys, or you just, you want to put them out of your way. You want to put out a competition out of your way. So cross-selling is definitely interesting.
4 reasons why a company acquires another company. The number one reason is to acquire their customer base, cross-selling and cross-selling compatibility, which is what we're handling. The second reason is to remove competition from the market, right? So acquire them so that they're part of you instead of against you.
Yeah.
The third reason why they would acquire a company is that they want to adopt their talent, just like you said, talent and culture. And then the fourth reason why they'd want to acquire a company is because they need an innovation in a space to complement what it is that they have and not build themselves.
Correct. Sometimes stock value or just pump up the evaluation. I'd add most probably like for financial reason. I don't know. It's, you know, like increase their margins with a bank or something like that. But yeah, that would be it. Or acquire their proprietary technology as well. Like apart from the staff, you know, like acquire their patents and stuff. Innovation. I guess
that would be the reason why they need to buy the innovation. So they're acquiring their IP essentially.
Yeah. Well, that is very cool, to be honest. And referring back to my question, were you targeting on purpose M&A lawyers? Because I have a bunch of campaign myself with TopLeads. I target a bunch of sub niches, which is part of my R&D department. And M&A was inside that, not M&A lawyers, but M&A ecosystem. And maybe I should narrow down. But did you targeted them with a global campaign from what channel did you get that lawyer, for example? Are we back?
Yep, we're back.
You were frozen for some time. Very, very Buddhist face. You have the nice, but I know you're back because of your ventilator, you know, your eyes weren't moving, but your ventilator was there. Sorry for the rain. Pardon planet Earth.
Oh no, it's okay. No, we didn't do it on purpose though. So we ran into an M&A attorney who wanted to speak to us.
Okay.
Then we spoke to him, and then this birthed a whole thing. And now I'm speaking to one of the ex-attorneys that used to work at BlackRock. So you know, the closest thing to Satan as far as corporations go. So talking to him, and then he's connected all throughout. And then what we're doing is we're facilitating this so that it will be a global campaign through his channels and through the other collective channels that we're working through. That way we can get it in there as an underwriting. And then what we want to do is actually get from the top attorneys pretty much a stamp of approval saying this is required for a proper due diligence process. And then it locks us into the market 100%.
Okay. If you're okay, we'll just jump in the podcast, all right?
Sure, not a problem.
If it hasn't already started. So tell me about your campaigns, you know, because I'm curious to know the guy like you that is an ICP master. What kind of campaigns do you have right now to get clients from White Rabbit? Do you cold email? Do you LinkedIn outreach? Do you do all of the above multi-touch sequences? And who do you target generally?
So we do mostly human outreach. Very, very far and few between times we do sequencing, standard sequencing. So it's mostly high touch human campaigns because we get our own dog food. So when we develop our ICP, it's so specific, and we use our own scoring methodologies and our predictions with the models that we build. So when we reach out to people, it's at a very intelligent level so we can spend the time and be as human as possible. So as far as outreach goes, we'll get hyper niched groupings of people on LinkedIn and do an outreach campaign, using automation to connect with them and do the initial message and all that stuff, because that's just grunt work. But as soon as the connection's made, we don't use any automation. When we do emailing, it's after we connect on LinkedIn, it's to follow up with them, it's to talk to them directly. Or to create, if we were to do a sequence campaign, it would be for some sort of campaign or a promotion that we're doing. That way it's only hitting the people that it is directly tied to. And we would craft the language around specific groupings of people between anywhere between 15 to 125 individuals for each set of messaging, because of how specific, because we don't need more leads. We need more leads that fit, which in turn is exponentially less. Yeah, because when the target's right, the message is developed around the target. Everybody perfects the target constantly, just trying to perfect the target, or trying to perfect the message. Mm-hmm. But if you have the wrong target, no matter how perfect the message is, engagement will be up, but conversion will still be down.
That's so good. So first value bomb is dropped. And obviously I'm not surprised to hear it from a guy like you that specializes in ICP, you know, but that is a very powerful one. I mean, 15 to 125, I don't think I ever heard that small number when it comes to niches. So they're like micro, hyper niche. Like for example, M&A lawyer is a good one. I don't think you can go. Well, you could go nicher than that if you allow the word. For example, a lawyer that is specialized from a part of the M&A, because there's many parts to it. So
Right.
that would kind of constitute your 15 to 125 individual group, correct?
Right. Yeah. So we would be going based off the geography, their set of skills that they have, the age range that they are. It would be based off of man or woman. It would be based off of what industry do they specialize in? What type of work do they specialize in? What background industry do they have? What level of education and so on? I mean, with attorneys, that's a bad example because you have a law degree. You have to have a certain amount of education no matter what. And you're pretty much at the peak. But for others, we could see things like that. And then side by side, looking at what the company is, how many years they've been in business and so on. So taking it beyond the level of, okay, most ICPs for sales teams, for marketing teams, it's a little bit more specific, between 5 to 10 categories. But for sales teams, I've seen mostly 3 to 5, where it's industry, company size, a region, which is very generalized. Industry, company size, and maybe the amount of revenue that they pull in, or perhaps a couple of titles that they want to target specifically.
Couple of follow-up questions for you. So why is marketing nicher than sales? In my mind, it would be the other way around, because sales is more personalized, and marketing, for example, it is to plug in a CSV that needs at least 1,000 valuable contact in my Facebook ads, for example, so that the targeted audience can be super precise. Can you explain why?
Oh yeah. So with sales, it's more targeted and personalized in general because you're targeting individual persons, right? In marketing, they're targeting a demographic of people.
Correct.
So they get more specific, but the sample sizes are larger because they're trying to send the content to anyone who's relevant or could be relevant, versus sales, where you're doing preliminary research, you're having your salespeople reach out, getting to know them and pre-qualify them, right? So that's the difference between the two. Like for example, if you take what we do, we're pretty much a targeting, like a hyper targeting and prospect pre-qualification engine. We do all of that up front, so you already know.
Yep. And that's the value, right? Like you could pay thousands and thousands and thousands, probably millions, in targeting those people, like with forms and all of that. But you guys already do it upfront. So that's pretty cool. I had another follow-up questions as per a piece of information that you just said. Why education? Like I target a bunch of psychographics data and demographics data, but education most of the time is not one of them. Can you explain the use cases for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're looking for people who have a certain degree, where you're talking to someone within that company who needs that level of education, for example, chemists, you need a doctorate in chemistry to be able to get a specific license to buy chemicals. Okay. Otherwise, if you reach out to someone who doesn't have that level of education, they physically cannot have that license to buy chemicals. So you cannot sell them chemicals, right?
Okay.
So if that's one example. Or like attorneys, for example, they work at a law office, but if they don't have a law degree, that means that they're probably someone who is an assistant or someone who's learning to become an attorney. So you don't want to target them. But outside of that, it's more so based on the level of education. The language that you're going to use and how you're going to compose the message is going to be different. A higher level of education usually likes a more sophisticated form of description, explanation of things. They go at a different level. And if you look at what they majored in, you could see how they would want it presented. An attorney would want a very analytical, longhand written version of something because they want all of the details. Yep. Someone who came from a marketing background or a business management background, they're going to want it shorthand, very much like an executive summary, or just the main details so they can get the point across on what it is that they're going to be talking about or learning about.
Okay, 2 follow-up questions here. The first one is about what you just said. I have reservations when it comes to giving people too much information in my email. There's this famous pricing page on the website debates. Some people say that you need it. Some others says that you don't. If I check White Rabbit, Do you guys have pricing? I have pricing on my website too, just because it's more, it's part of my values, you know, to be transparent, even if it will cost me some sales. What do you think on that, and giving long form information to someone rather than giving them the short form and hopping on a phone call with them? What do you think about that?
Right. So long form, short form, I think that mostly lives in the area of landing pages, because how did they get there? Who are they? Why would they have gone that way? And how did they get there? So it can go to longhand. If someone's going down the route of an M&A attorney is looking to speak with us, they're going to go down a very specific route on the website. Therefore, we can get longhand, but face value for the website, it's pretty much generalized for everybody to be able to easily digest the information until they start clicking through, right? So it just depends. And how you would approach them would be different too for direct outreach. And then on the other hand, what was the first question you asked before the longhand thing? It was
I did it as the second. The second was regarding the chemist. I don't think, well, I mean, that's my opinion. Like most of the time, chemists are busy doing chemist stuff. They're not decision makers. Wouldn't you reach out to their managers? And these managers, I mean, yes, they would have potentially a diploma. Do all managers of chemists have a diploma? You know, those are the questions that popped in my mind while you were giving me the chemist example.
Yeah, so it just depends. That's the thing. And that's why we analyze all of the data, because the person who you should be reaching out to, even if you're selling chemicals, may end up being the head of procurement who doesn't have a degree in anything. It could just be that they have a high school education. They've been with the company since it started. So seeing all of the facts, that's part of it, where you can make the assumptions, the human assumptions, but then seeing the whole view after analyzing trillions of patterns, you get a whole different perspective. Like one person that we worked with, they thought that they sold to marketing and advertising companies doing sales coaching and consulting out in the UK.
Okay.
So they said, we sell to them because they're the easiest to talk to. They're very willing to buy, so on and so forth. We don't work with technology companies because, you know, salespeople and tech people, you know, they butt heads. Not a great experience. It's just not a good idea. Well, after we analyzed their data, we told them that their best target is IT and services companies. Second best is going to be computer software companies. And then third best is marketing and advertising. Okay. They said, there's no way. It's not because you do business mostly with marketing and advertising companies. That doesn't make them the best target. You were just doing the wrong thing for a really long time and making it work, right? Just because it's an easier conversation doesn't mean it's a better sales experience, a better sales opportunity. So what they did is that they ran a campaign based off of this data, and they broke every single monthly record in about 2 weeks of outbound campaigning. And they ran some Facebook ads, and they saw a 400% return within about 5 days off what they spent on a 1 week campaign for about $450 just to give it a try.
Okay. And in the software agencies, let's say the decision makers, were they the VP sales, VP marketing owners?
Well, I don't remember, to be honest with you, what the job title target was. I just know that it was C-suite. Okay. Is what they were going for. I know that CEOs were in there, CSOs were in there, not chief security. I'm talking chief sales. Yep. But that's all I remember. There were others in there as well, because the system will look at more than just one answer. It's multiple answers that you can micro segment into smaller niches.
Okay. That's kind of interesting. I have a question regarding the tool. So the data that you analyze and the recommendations that you give, it's only with the accessible data that they give you with their, let's say their CRM, their Salesforce or their HubSpot. If it's not in your actual offer, will you kind of offer eventually the magic tool that I would call? Because my goal is in life is to build the greatest startup ecosystem. The tool that would tell me, this is the new business you need to start. This is who you need to target. This is what's hot right now, what's trendy, and this is why. Will you eventually offer that? Go outside of
so you're saying
organization and checking the whole market. No.
Are you saying creating a brand around a specific market?
The whole market. Analyze the whole market and tell me, for example, like hoverboards were hot in 2016, or crypto was hot in 2014, and here's who's buying. Basically, how would you do that? And I mean, it's not far-fetched, but it's a grand vision. Aggregating all the data of your clients and getting trends and patterns of there and suggesting, for example, a marketing agency that they should offer this product to this niche to make money. You get my point?
Yep, I get your point. And yeah, I mean, there are a couple companies that do something along those lines that I can actually introduce you to if you're looking for that, because they analyze the web, they look at what's hot, what's not, what questions people are asking, what type of answers that they're looking for, and so on. For sure.
Like Trends.co, right? And for example, these types of company, Trends.co. But my question is, do you have any plans to get into this yourself? Is that of any interest?
Well, there's already people doing it, you know? There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. We look at all of those aspects, but in a very directioned and purpose-specific way. What we're trying to do is connect people to people that will resonate with one another as best as possible and resonate with each other's value propositions. So literally connect at a human level around a subject matter that makes sense for business, right?
Yeah, I got this. It's just that, for example, if you check my data, I might get an answer, an uncovered answer that like this was the best target for me. But what if, you know, I don't have any data? It's, you know, it's a blind spot on, for example, targeting recruitment agencies. I never targeted them before, but you, Rob, have the data with White Rabbit from another client, a pool of data that you aggregated, and you can tell me, dude, just go after recruiting agencies, for example. You know, that would be kind of interesting.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we work with people like that where it's not just about the industry. It's about all the other aspects that make them who they are and who they work for. So that's just one tiny piece of the puzzle, is what industry, where it's not industry specific. Everything is weighted a certain amount of what means what. The thing that we found is the most important are the aspects of what drives them. So really being able to hit it off in that way, where of course it's easy to find out, is there a need for this in that market? That's very simple. They struggle with this, this, and that. Therefore, they can use a solution like this. Pretty simple to figure out. Systems looking at it from that company level. But let's say you do business with only marketing companies and you want to get into recruiting. Well, you would go after the titles that the system recommends. You'd go after the different skill sets. You'd go after the interests. You go after the education level, what they're good at, what they value, and so on. And you will still be able to see and be able to predict, yes, this person would be a good person to talk to. Whether they'll buy or not, that's a question. But whether they will resonate with it and want to continue to build a relationship, that we can actually devise. So if there is a real business case for it in the market, then there's no reason why they shouldn't.
Yeah. Do you create psychographics out of, for example, the demographics that you get?
So psychographics, that's data that is their interests, their values, their aspirations, their goals. That's what that is. Not many people know what psychographics are. That's why I don't usually use that terminology, because they're not familiar. I don't want anybody to feel like they don't know something. But psychographics, based off of what they engage with, what they're interested in, what they value, think of it as like the core aspects of the values and morals that you've built. That could be due to location, where you grew up. People have different values in New York than they do in Boston. And people in Miami have very different values from that. People in Mexico City have very different values from the rest of that. So the location ties into that. You can start seeing patterns within of what they value, of what they're interested in, what they drive to aspire to be skilled at, and so on. That is all determined by a lot of different factors. So all of it kind of bleeds in, but you could start seeing patterns within certain geolocations, different groupings of people, and what it is that is important to them. I hope that answered your question well enough.
Kind of.
There's no like actual direct way, because it's very abstract.
Okay. So basically you don't like do it. My question was mostly based on, for example, if internally you had that data set in, maybe you don't make it available to the clients, but maybe you have some kind of psychological profile of the client because he was educated at Harvard, and this one of his skill is sales, for example, and that would tell us that John is, for example, ENTJ type of personality or something like that. Well, and that would help me know if I can target him or not.
Yes, we do plot that type of stuff, but being able to do an actual like 16 part or 16 personality
Yeah.
process behind it is that I know that there's businesses out there such as like Crystal Knows where they do a psych profile and all that.
Okay.
But the truth is what's available on the internet at a public level, developing an actual psychological profile, the data literally isn't there. If you've ever done a psychology test to find out your personality, whatever it may be, the questions that you answer are things that would never be publicly available information. You wouldn't just have it out there. So building an actual accurate, real, like true to life psychological profile with public data is very improbable.
Yeah, it's hard. I think most people do not have that data publicly available, but I think
they wouldn't want it publicly available, you know? But a lot of the data we look at, like you were saying, is that when it goes that deep, we don't actually project it outward to our clients or our partners because it's simply too much information on them. It's too invasive.
Yeah, and maybe not that valuable, I could see. I think like public people, founders, CEOs like you and I, C-level people, they put that information out there. For example, on LinkedIn, you know, I'll have some posts. I'll have some blog posts. I'll have some podcasts. Eventually, I want to know what's on your roadmap because yeah, it's like a data gathering tool. It's very heavy on that. Are you still focusing on getting more data, getting higher quality of data, getting different sources of data? What's on the roadmap for White Rabbit?
Sure. Always looking for other data sources. We're talking to plenty of data providers right now to work with them because we're not a data provider. We make data actionable and we give it purpose for profit, right? We're not providing data per se. We're providing actionability on
Correct.
the data.
Yep.
But what we're working toward is that we're working toward opportunities with mergers and acquisitions to make them extremely optimized, right?
Yeah,
we talked about that before the call. Yeah, it's pretty incredible stuff. Working with private equity firms so that they can drive revenue within their existing ecosystem rather than just getting more and more and more clients, churn and burn, baby. Getting away from that and moving into how can we make the most out of what we have? Because about 40% of unearned revenue exists within your existing ecosystem.
That's crazy.
It's already there. It's through cross sells and upsells. So taking like a portfolio of 150 companies and being able to tell them without creating brand damage in the process, these are all the people who are going to buy what, right? From there, we're going to tweak our system to be able to be used for recruiting and for HR purposes. So you can do team building with it. So you can also have a better, faster, stronger way of recruiting and cutting out the middleman, the recruiters who are just doing most of the automated processes behind that. That'll save companies a ton of money and a ton of time behind being able to target and identify the people who are best fit, both culturally and skill-wise, right?
Super interesting. What about psychographics on that one? Would it be important? I recruit my people with these psychology tests and they work, I can tell you. Do you have that in mind for them?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So we would have their company. So in this case, we would have their company all do psych tests to understand what their profiles are, like a Cliff Strengths Finders test and like all that stuff. We would have them do that, but as a default. And then when people are applying to their position, they would do some sort of psych test where they're not actually chosen because that's illegal to choose someone based off of a psychology test, but it would just get dumped into an analytical system. So there's no biased decision being made. It's just looking at here are the gaps in your company, and this is what they have to offer. Does it fill those gaps? So it's taking all bias out of it, race, religion, all that stuff is removed, stripped from the process. Just about, can this person fit into the business and do they fit the culture and mindset, period.
Interesting. Very cool. What else on the roadmap? Where's White Rabbit and Rob in 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. I mean, I hope in 5 years I could build a multi-billion-dollar company. So that's the plan by 2027, right? 10 years, I want to be innovating, be above and beyond where anybody's gone before. What we like to do is delve into the unknown. Our R&D department, we call it Pandora's box, because we are constantly going into the depths of theoretical mathematics to the point where it's like somewhat scary and makes you question existence. So it's I know the feeling. So we want to be able to map people in a way to understand, like, this is how people function and work together, really unlock everything behind why people engage and build relationships in the first place. What are the driving factors, and being able to quite literally quantifiably define why people connect.
Okay, that is quite interesting. I guess an ambitious guy like you might want to go out of, White Rabbit and that niche of insights through data. You want to use that as a platform to research, it seems. Am I right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we have our methods. I'm also on the board of like a neurotechnologies company for human augmentation, all that stuff. So work with them, and it's a lot of data analytics behind scarce data analytics and around. So what that means is that where are the scarcities within a data set, how to fill those in automatically. So even if the data doesn't exist, it could be predetermined to fit. So let's say, simplicity, you have a contact record. The contact record has everything filled out, but it's missing the job title. The job title is not publicly available anywhere. It's never been published before. There is no physical way to find out unless you were to walk up to them on the street and say, what do you do? What's your title?
Yeah.
Being able to fill that in, because based off of how it's mapped in a matrix, being able to understand, okay, because of all of these hundreds of factors, they have a 99.8% probability that they're a CMO.
Yeah.
There's no argument behind it. And then if there's right, the idea, but behind different processes like the human brain, or behind manufacturing technologies, or behind other things that could be heavily applied to the day-to-day life and create a whole new realm of opportunities for being able to push things further than they've ever been before, quite simply because things are missing.
Okay. That's interesting. I have a couple of rapid fire questions before you go, because I know you're on a tight schedule. So first, I checked CBAI. I have the ambitions to launch my own, I call it the blood chip. It's a chip that analyzes your blood. But this will be done once I create my business that will create business, and create the greatest startup ecosystem in the world. And we might talk for hours about
so when you're talking about is that you want to have a chip that's able to regulate your blood, understand what the blood sugar levels are and what the different nutrients are in it?
The first stage is data analytics, so analyze the blood. The second phase, there's a bunch of phases. I could send you my little plan here. It will basically, second will be a platform, just like for example the App Store. There'll be a bunch of apps that will be able to help track some data in your blood. The third phase would be to inject stuff in your blood, like caffeine, for example. Or if you know that I'm diabetic, inject metformin, for example. And yeah, like the fourth stage would be to kind of move it upstairs, right? Like Neuralink, or I don't know if you know Brian Johnson. He has a startup that's pretty cool. I checked him out like last weekend. But yeah, it's a complex endeavor, and I haven't started. If I didn't started that one because I want to create the business that creates business first, so like the greatest startup ecosystem in the world, because I know that if I jump in that one, it'll be full time. There's no way I can multitask between this for sure. One and others.
I mean, the two places that I would look is Insulet. They already build technologies where it sticks onto your skin. It's able to analyze your bloodstream. It's able to analyze all of that. Actually give you insulin and regulate your blood sugar for diabetics. I've got a couple people that I know that work there if you ever wanted introductions. And then I also know the folks over at Metamaterial and stuff transdermally.
Okay, you'll need to send me those please, so I can look them up. I know, let's see if, okay, you're back. Levels.io is a good one too. I think they'd have the greatest shot at making, this vision come true. And obviously, yeah, like we'll need to discuss some of that a bit later. I have a couple of follow-up questions, and we'll kind of end it there. Can you explain the AI behind White Rabbit?
Do you actually want the answer to that? Does anybody listening actually want the answer to that?
I do, because I think, and I'm not saying this is the case. A lot of companies, they claim stuff on AI.
Oh yeah, no, 95% of it's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, tell me that, because this morning, I'm not sure if you know the guys at Line.ai. I interviewed them, and their AI is mostly about natural language processing, which is to make a sentence sound natural, like humans do. Can you explain a little bit, where's the AI? Is it like with data correlation? Can you give me a bit more info on that?
Okay, yeah. So we're looking at mostly the dynamics behind what the structural composition of data is. So it's projecting it out into matrices, multidimensional matrices. So what we're able to do is look at the way that what makes people up who they are, all the data points behind them, and being able to map them out into multidimensional matrices to understand how things fit together. That's what we're doing. So it's really in the metaverse type of a thing. When you're talking about NLP, and as a good example, if you want to look at people who are in NLP that take it to the next level, all the way down the contextual route, like deep learning contextual, that's incredible. Check out Symbol. That's SYMBL. Those guys are the real deal if you want to look at that stuff. They do
check them out.
more sophisticated and incredible than anyone I've ever seen. The reason because, but we're more so down the route of the meta. And when we're talking about the meta, it's like we analyze historical data. We're able to look at the successes and failures. The only thing you teach the system is what's a win and what's a loss.
Okay.
That's it. Otherwise, it's unstructured, unsupervised machine learning, which most people don't even know how to build because it does its own mathematics and makes its own assumptions, right? So it calculates the data the way it needs to be treated to be calculated. It creates its own sub-algorithms, and then it treats it as it should, runs it through a deep learning program and understands it's able to pull it apart and then build a model, while on the flip side, it's able to effectively create a target. Once it creates that target, builds the model, we're able to take other people in other populations, as we like to call them, and analyze them to see how well they'll fit that target. And it's not just, don't think of it as a target where they have to line up with A, B, and C, and then it's a fit. They can be A squared and then like a C gamma, and then, you know what I mean? Like different factors fit together the way it flows, and different patterns mean success, where it doesn't need to line up perfectly, but it needs to fit some sort of pattern that's created. We run that through like an advanced neural network system to be able to devise those decisions. And then once it outputs, then it just comes out as just a percentage saying you have an 83.4% probability of building a positive engagement and relationship with Jen Jameson at company XYZ.
Okay. And the algorithm works.
I want to get, because
the algorithm works better and better. Like the more data it crunches, the more accurate it gets for the next client, correct?
Yeah, right. So it's a learning system, self-learning system. And it's not just one algorithm. I guess we have 5 patentable like unsupervised, unstructured machine learning models and 2 patentable deep learning models, as well as like a neural net. So it's a lot in that system. There's a lot of moving parts in it. It's not just an algorithm like most companies have. What we do is not possible with one algorithm.
It's pretty cool. And who's the nerd behind all those algorithms?
I think everybody in our company is a nerd.
Okay, cool.
We had the other day, this is like a couple months ago, we had a Matrix watching party. So we were on Discord, like the gamer platform. And we streamed the Matrix, and then everybody in the company was just there watching the movie together. I mean, it's kind of, we're all nerds.
The Matrix, a good one. I'd argue that Jean-Marc Vallée 2014 Blade Runner is the greatest. Well, in my opinion.
I love Blade Runner too. It's a beautiful thing. The reason I love the Matrix so much is because there is no way to prove it's wrong. It could be happening right now, and there's no way to prove it otherwise.
Yeah, right now, but I think in a couple of years we'll make advancement. I have a good friend of mine, member of my mastermind.
I'm saying there's no way to tell that we're not in the Matrix.
We'll be able to tell. Give us a couple of years. Give
us a couple of years to find out if it's all a lie. Yeah.
But if you'd ask me, I do believe that there's good chances that we are in one. But I mean, that doesn't change anything in my life, that, I mean, I'm still a serotonin driven creature, and cortisol and testosterone. So, I mean, yeah.
Don't forget the norepinephrine.
Norepinephrine, that's adrenaline, no?
No, that's like the really good, rewarding feeling, like when you've accomplished something, like really accomplished something.
Okay, you'll have to send me that one. As a very educated neuroscience person, I don't remember that one for sure. That's interesting.
That's like, when you take like Adderall is dopamine and norepinephrine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I used to take, here in Mexico, they call it modafinil, and you can get it over the counter. I stopped that. Maybe we could have another podcast about brain hacking. I think, it wasn't
the dangers of brain hacking.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good and bad, you get like obviously in a flow state, but also you become, well, not addicted to it, but the highs don't feel that high. And modafinil is famous for not being too addictive. But also, I had like stomach stuff with it. I used to microdose it, by the way, like not like a huge quantities, but yeah, I kind of stopped that. And nowadays still fuel on coffee and yerba mate. What about you?
That's the problem. I don't mean the actual drug high. I mean the actual hormonal and chemical high that you get is not attainable anymore in comparison to where you were.
Correct. That's a good one. Last but not least, I need to ask, you're around like 28 years old, right?
I'm 26.
26. So you're very young, and it's the same when people speak to myself. I'm 28, I think. I need to ask my wife. But you don't sound your age. Like you sound probably 50 or 60 when I talk to you. What made you that way, and what makes you so ambitious? Because I also have the goals to make billion, even $1 trillion companies. Why are you that way?
Why am I that way? Well, I guess I can give some of it to my upbringing. I was raised by baby boomers. So I was not raised as a millennial. I was raised as a Gen X. I don't know what that means, but I was living in a world of millennials. So it had interesting social values behind a more traditional landscape of family values. And I don't know. I've always seen education as the one thing that no one could take from you. Mm-hmm. So, and I've always been self-driven with learning. The reason I went to school for design, I have a background in design. That's what I went to college for.
Yeah.
Graphic design. And I specialized in UX and UI. And then I minored in business psychology, communications, advertising, so on and so forth, a bunch of different shit. But the thing is that I went to school to learn things that you have to learn through experience, because I can learn math and science at a book. It's just that people need to go to engineering school when you essentially don't even learn how to engineer anything most of the time. It's not it's class rocket science. No one walks out knowing how to build a rocket. Correct. No one, not a single fucking person. It should be how to build a rocket is the class, because you have to learn all the physics and all of the differential equations you'd have to learn anyway to build the rocket in the first place. So that's the idea, is that applied mathematics are learned through experience, sure, but all the mathematics you would learn within a college environment, they call it applied, but it's really not. It's all theoretical. So you can learn all of that in a library. As long as you have the drive to do it, people go to school for engineering or math or whatever it may be, because I feel like they need to be surrounded by other people in a learning environment with them in order to have the drive to learn. I always just learned, and I always want to keep learning. I know I sound selfish with this type of a thing, but the thing is that it's the only person stopping you is yourself. And if you don't have that inhibitor, you can make it a lot further than others. And I guess that's a huge piece.
I mean, I 100% agree with that. I think most ambitious entrepreneurs do. Well, peer pressure is a thing in this environment. On my side, I dropped out, like I was making more and learning more than my teachers, So at this point I was like, yeah, this is an easy choice.
What can they do to help you at that point? If you're beyond their level of intellect, what are they doing to help you? Look at Mark Zuckerberg, look at Bill Gates. They dropped out because they're like, there's nothing these people can teach me. If anything, they're limiting me.
Yeah, it's a time calculation. my intuition is very strong. I guess, very smart people, their algorithms understand at a level that they don't even understand. And it's funny when people say, "Oh, you don't understand what the AI built." Well, shit, I don't even understand how I
that's a
come
good
up
one.
with my conclusions.
That's a really good one. So we don't know what the fuck the AI is doing. What we do know is that the math is correct. That's all that matters, because it's doing so much. I mean, you look at a data set of 1,000 people and there's about 150 values per person, like 150 columns of data, 1,000 rows within a spreadsheet. Our deep learning system is recognizing somewhere around 8.87 times 10 to the 94th trillion patterns within that. Yeah. That's not even human conceivable at any rate. You know how long it takes? 13,000 years to count to a trillion.
Yeah. And I mean, people, the AR fears are mostly BS. I'd say, like, oh, we can lose control of an AI, but fuck, we lose control of fucking Hitler. And I mean, that was
you're not wrong.
that was quick. And most people, they have wrong fears like that. They think these ways, we'll become AI slaves, but right now we're slaves to many things and we don't even know it. News, Trump propaganda, and all of that. And actually, we already did the results of the election. I mean, that was because people were duped and were totally manipulated by Cambridge Analytica. You probably know that, and you're into this. So, and the psychographic stuff that we've been speaking about. But so I mean,
the only company who's actually similar. The only company who's similar to us was actually Cambridge Analytica, but they were disbanded purposefully.
Yeah, and, purposely.
To this day, I don't know where any of the top executives of that company, they're all missing. I don't know what happened. But that's the thing, is that they used it for political agenda and mass manipulation, where we built something similar, but we're using it for the good of the economy and that only. Like, we refuse to work with governments. We won't do it.
Yeah. And again, like, we're not going to stick too much on that topic, but, like, we're afraid of what AI will do. But theoretically, government, they already oppress humans a lot. Same for some businesses out there. Most of them are good, I believe, especially when it comes to business and startups. And that is the topic of another podcast.
Yeah, well, if I were to make one point about this, just one, is that technology is not inherently evil. None of it is. The nuclear bomb's not even evil.
Correct.
The intention behind the builder was.
Yeah.
And so whoever builds the technology, whatever purpose they give it, is either good or evil, which is also based off of culture and inherent values, right? So no technology is evil until it's made that way. So AI is not evil in any way, but if it's built for an evil purpose, it could be, just like anything else.
Yeah, and don't we deserve to die as a whole humanity? If someone was evil enough to program an evil AI, I'm ready to die for it, just because I'm part of that. I think I'll kind of distance myself from a good part of the humanity, especially the evil one. But I think if there was a human evil enough, and I'll always be human, well, for quite a while, I think I don't have a problem with that AI taking over if some fucked up human of mine decided to create that AI. Anyway,
if it were to happen, just like you're saying, if it were to happen, it would have been done on purpose.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It would kind of be fair, like, I mean, that's us, that's humans, and that's not the robot. But hey, man, that's super interesting. We're getting in the high serotonin zone here. Like, I could talk about that for hours. Rob, it's been fantastic having you. I'm just gonna let you go run. I need to finish a sequence of my own here, organizing this cool mastermind in Huatulco, Mexico later this year. So need to finish writing that up, and we'll catch.
I go to Mexico pretty often.
Oh yeah, what did you ever go to Huatulco?
I've never been to Huatulco. I have family in Toluca.
Toluca,
it's up in the mountains above Mexico City. Right.
Okay. Above, like right now, I'm south of Mexico City. I'm in this little town called Huitzilac because I have a Spartan race coming up next. But okay, cool. Toluca, I didn't know it. And you have a cat.
Yep, I got. Yeah, this is Marvel.
What a boss.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. Next time I'm in Mexico, I'll let you know. But pleasure. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
Pleasure, man. I guess you go to Cancun like most travelers?
No, Cozumel is where I would go
Cozumel,
over to go for something like that, because Cancun, that's a bit much for me. I don't want the spring breaker experience. I'm good.
yeah, I had it once I was 18 and I didn't do it ever again. But yeah, Cozumel's pretty nice. I did an Ironman there.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, like the water is like super clear. It was the best swim I ever had. But yeah, anytime you're around there, you tell me, we'll go dive and play some golf.
Oh yeah, for sure. Diving and golf. My sister's a master diver, so that's
Okay.
it's in the family.
I just love diving, especially without the oxygen tanks. Like just on your own breath. I do a lot of Wim Hof and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
All right, Rob. Peace out, my man.
Yep. I'll talk to you
Bye.
later.